She was actually a child that was bounced on the knee of Che Guevara. You know, her dad worked with Che Guevara. And, you know, so there's activists up here that have a history, and they're still trying to find ways to be engaged in community awareness. You know, we talked to an elder from Haida Gwaii, and several of the elderly women that are the heads of their clans from the Haida Gwaii had returned home, and they called their gathering, and they had stripped the titles of chief off two of the men because the two men had supported Kinder Morgan pipeline, and that wasn't the position of the nation itself. And so they lost their chieftainship, and there's nothing they can do about it because it's a matriarchal society, and grandmothers of the nation have the say over who's leader today. And so, you know, there are those type of activities. We know the people in north of Vancouver here had fought as First Nations in court and stopped Enbridge for failure to consult with the nations. While we're up here, we're calling attention to the idea that down in the United States has a duty and obligation as a matter of treaty relationship with the Indian tribes to work fairly and justly with the Indian nations, to not assert their sovereignty. And we know that there's a lot of tribes and tribal leaders getting engaged in the issue down at Standing Rock. The Standing Rock Sioux had told the proposed pipeline people that you cannot pass through our territory. And so they stood up and they protested, and the North Dakota governors intervened. They got some federal court order saying that Indians can't even protest on their own reservation. You know, and that's really asinine. That's a real bad decision, and I'm sure it's going to be appealed. And if it isn't, there's going to be a lot of natives upset because it's a peace-loving gathering down there, and we have a lot of elders and a lot of children that are praying, a lot of wise tribal leaders that have always led their people in a peaceful way. And you got the governor and the sheriffs claiming that when they heard the word pipe, that there are pipe bombs involved. They're talking about the peace pipe, the pipes that they use to pray with. And so what they're doing is they're stretching the imagination of the population in order to incite violence. That's what they're doing. They're trying to incite violence against the natives. And they pulled out the water, they pulled out all septic services, and next it'll be food. And you know, this is unjust, and this is a violation of human rights. You know, and I'm sure the nations, if they can't get justice, they will go to the United Nations. Both the United States and Canada have accepted the UN Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and we have the right to have environmental integrity, and we have the right to be free and prior and informed consent. That's what they agreed to, and it's obviously not put into practice. The Army Corps of Engineers is being challenged by Standing Rock for their failure to consult with the tribe on their decision making. You know, and it's an issue of concern for all Indian nations that if you treat one tribe like this, you're going to treat another tribe the same way. You're setting precedent. You know, and we have, you know, the world around us is falling apart. The rivers are dying. The air is polluted. You know, and you got nuclear reactors that have blown up over in Japan that's killing the Pacific Ocean, and we're looking at a very bleak future. You know, and all of these mega corporation projects that are multi-billion-dollar investments are really all about the rich getting richer and the poor suffering more. You know, it's creating few jobs and great wealth for the wealthy. You know, and that's the bottom line, and that's the real issue involved here. And so we're really happy because here in Vancouver, a lot of people are saying we're standing up, we're saying no, and we're going to reach out and we're going to gather other people. And so we're asking the churches and environmental groups to pay attention. You know, what happened to Standing Rock, one of the things that the late Felix Cohen, who was a solicitor for the Department of Interior, said is that, like the miner's canary, the American Indian marks a shift from fresh air to poison gas in our political atmosphere. Our treatment of the Indian, even more than our treatment of other minorities, marks our rise and fall in our democratic faith. And that's exactly what's being said here, is that they're saying that we always have to step aside and we always have to accept the sacrifice of the environment for corporate profit, and that's unacceptable.
And then we're heading to Winnipeg after Standing Rock?
Well, after Standing Rock, we're going to be with the Cheyenne, and we'll do what we have to in regards to meeting with any of the indigenous nations in North Dakota, South Dakota that we can, what we have within reason, time. you know, and then we'll head up to Winnipeg, and there'll be some major events there. You know, what's going on is that you got the pipeline coming out of the tar sands, called Enbridge. Then you have the Kinder Morgan pipeline coming in the Fraser River, and then you have had the Keystone pipeline that tried to dissect the United States in half, hit the Gulf Coast. Now you got Pipeline East, and the people in Winnipeg are at a strategic location, and they've been standing up and taking opposition that the Pipeline East will not go through their territory. And so it's all about unity. It's all about making sure that it's not just First Nations people, but it's about the general public. It's the health of everybody. Every man, woman, and child deserves to have fresh air, fresh water, clean land, you know, and to raise their family in a healthy way.
Okay.